Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to all of you. I am really happy to be with you here, and the organizing committee asked me to talk a little bit about the environment and the biosphere. So, if we see, this is actually the slide from Professor Mori. He came to Indonesia at the time on the national conference on science, where Pak Umarian is at the time in Bogor, Pak Umar remember. So he mentioned to us at the time that the Earth planet, when you see it from 400 kilometers away, is so beautiful. There is no administrative boundaries there. So, but the claim of the human being, have boundaries, because the waters physically is actually interconnected all over the surface of the Earth. So, and also we recognize that the Earth planet is actually only one planet that can actually humankind living there. The Earth planet is actually the right environment for us, and also the biosphere to support our life. So the Earth's linked physically and biologically system, the atmosphere is actually in the right measurements. The amounts of gases is in the right orders. So we can actually enjoy living on the Earth. The ocean, the soil, minerals, fresh waters, and living organisms. This is actually making the Earth planet actually fit for our life and able to provide almost all for the human needs. So I think now it is recognized that the Earth planet is so fragile, and now it is in the dangers actually. The planet, we still remember from the literatures that actually rotating in the speed of 1,600 kilometers per hour, and also spinning around the sun with the speed of 107,000 kilometers per hour. So it's actually very delicate the planet. So now we have to decide, set up new standard for extinction, or to protect it for our to protect our planet for generation to come. What I would like to highlight here actually, why the planet is actually so fit for us to live. One of the key elements is that the Earth planet having the biodiversity. So the biodiversity is really the key pillars ecologically sustainable development. So when we see here in the planet of Earth, the biodiversity is unevenly distributed, but mostly in the tropical belts. So biodiversity is really the fundamental to sustain the ecosystem functioning, because we are actually relying on the services from the ecosystem. Where the biodiversity also protects Earth planets, maintains lives, provide food, provide medicine, provide energy, and provide other things that human needs. Biodiversity also managing waters, because when I see the botanical garden, for example, in Bogor, there's actually the garden is actually water towers, because each of plant species actually holding so much water in it. At least 80 to 90%, some almost 100% is waters in it. So provide also nutrient, these nutrient cycles and the formation of soil. Also the important thing is the fixing carbon, maintain the global climate, spiritual sources also, education, and the development of science itself, and also aesthetics. So the biodiversity is very important for us. Without biodiversity, maybe the planet of Earth cannot actually provide services to us. What I would like to discuss here is that the problem facing us today, but some of us is actually not really recognized what happening actually. No, the first one is of course the population growth. Population growth is growing so fast. It's like in the pictures here, crowded. How actually the planet of Earth can actually provide condition for the rapid growing population. But in fact, from the population growth here, the world is actually changing dramatically. Socially, economically, and also environmentally. Expansion of global economy, for example, GDP per capita and global trade increase so rapidly, and it is actually accelerated at the moment by better communication, low transportation costs, and advancement of science and technology, which I would like to highlight later on. The problem also arising is no sustainable use of natural resources, because so greedy, the human being, including also the utilization of land, for example, and waters, forests, fisheries, which actually eventually lead to threaten our livelihood itself. Let's see, for example, with the consumption. From the data here, from 1979 to 2000, is increased rapidly. The population, the energy consumption also increased rapidly. So food consumption also increased significantly. In related to food issues, we see here through the advancement of science and technology, for example, the genetically modified organism to increase the speed of the food production, for example, only using a few genes inserted to crops, like BT gene, for example. The speed of business on GMO is rapidly growing. For example, at the moment, there are a lot of GMOs growing in United States, in Brazil also. It cannot be imagined for us, but the total areas grown by GMO is 116 million hectares. So it's actually converting the forest land, converting the many lands, fertile land to grow the GMO all over the world. Indonesia is still negotiating about that one. But now it's actually moving from genetically modified organism to synthetically organism. So the people is no need for inserting certain gene, but they actually formulating the life systems. We call it the synthetic biology, which I will highlight later on. So it is also predicted that by 2032, more than 70% of land space surface globally will have been damaged or disturbed by the human population, according to UNEP. In fact, many data show to us that the degradation of ecosystem is actually happening now. There are tipping points, like for example, Amazon dieback. Actually, dieback is happening also in Papua, in Indonesia. Eutrophication, of course. Coral reef collapse, for example, is happening not only by the human damage, but also by naturally damaging conditions, which I will show you later on. This one, the sea debris. In recent years, plastic pollution in the ocean has become a significant environmental concern. 6 years research by Garris Institute estimated that over 5 trillion of plastic particles is actually exists in the ocean. This one actually carcinogenic and also polluted everything. Here, I went to East Kalimantan with Professor Lukman Hakim to see the Sangatta River, for example. In 1980s, it's actually clear, a lot of fish, they can actually taking a bath there, and also having it's actually easy to access to the clean waters at the time, but only a few years to come, then becoming so dirty and then go to the ocean also. This is actually very damaging, for the environment. When we see here, at the first time, the ocean is so clear. Like some of the ocean in Australia, for example, the sunlight can penetrate even up to 200 meters, at least 60 meters. So the larger origin, for example, healthy kelp, dense of canopy. There's many spawns and with the high varieties in here, but it's decreasing here and decreasing here. In many parts of the world, there are marine conditions like this. No urchins, no kelp, bladder weeds, open canopy, no spawns, and very low varieties in these oceans. I visited once into Batam Island near Singapore, where actually the mining is conducted there. It's so dirty, it may not be recovered within 15 or 20 years, So the mayors of this island district mentioned to me that it's very hard not to find fish there because no phytoplankton, the food web is actually cut, It's very difficult, and we can imagine how it's going to be affected the food from the marine resources. This is actually the problem now, even naturally occurs, where the human being is not really understood, recognized about this problem. The CO2 accumulation, which actually absorbed by the waters, then CO2, if we react with waters, and can be the carbonic acid. So the acidification of ocean is major problems. So the carbonic acid actually break down into bicarbonate and hydrogen ion and reduces the amounts of carbonate, which is actually a key factors to organism to make a shell. So with this, actually there's a step here that created the ocean compound that clams coral and plankton and other creatures need to build the shell and skeleton, which later on fish and other organisms which can develop metabolic immune reproductive problems afterward, and which actually kills of food for animal at the highest and the food chains in the water, which is actually in later on will have a very damaging to our livelihood. All of this problem actually already recognized in 1992 and producing the 3 legal binding Rio Convention, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change and Adaptation, United Nations Conservation of Biological Diversity, the CBD, and also United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. It seems to us that there is a commitment from all of the parties in addressing the environment and biosphere, climate change, biodiversity loss, and also desertification. But in fact, the commitment is not really implemented in the grassroots level. If you see here, for example, when I joined the COP10 in Nagoya 2010, after 20 years, we concluded at the time that the species loss is actually continuous. But until now, the species loss is continuous, still going on, even in the rate. The rate is increasing. So the mass extinction actually underway. Human being currently causing the greatest mass extinction of species since the existence of the dinosaurs 60 million years ago. If present trend continue, 1/2 of all species of life on Earth will be extinct in less than 100 years. We still not actually understand how many species should be left for us to live, because it's all interconnected. Our cell is actually a part of the biodiversity. So this actually caused by the habitat destruction because of the pollution, because of the invasive species, because of the climate change. Invasive species could also belong to the genetically modified organism maybe. So extinction of species actually highlighted the ethical values on the part of human being, which should be accompanied by the behavioral change. I don't know if the human being all over the world could actually change the way to how to behave to the environment. We still, if we see here, the problem also indicated here that in any areas here, in the areas here, agriculture, industrial, become the information still going up there, but suddenly, we just recognize it collapsing. So degradation of environment and also biosphere, climate change already with us. So we just realized that actually the carrying capacities of the Earth planet is actually reducing. So this actually requires safeguarding for the welfare of biological species, the biosphere, and also the ecosystem for us to live there. So science, technology, and development and the environment. Scientific knowledge has led to remarkable advances that have been of benefit to humankind. At the same time, the application of science advances have led to environment degradation and contributed to the social imbalance, economic disparities, and also climate change. We are actually only the managers, but not the owners of the biosphere. It is our moral and ethical responsibility to protect the environment, the biosphere, the biodiversity, and to preserve for sustainable utilization to meet the current need and also those for the future generation. So we are lucky actually at UNESCO. We have Universal Declaration on Bioethics and Human Rights. But the Article 17 is not really well addressed. No? The protection of the environment, the biosphere, and the biodiversity. On this Article 17, we actually understand that due regard is to be given to the interaction between human being and other life form, to the importance of appropriate access and utilization of biological and genetic resources, to respect for the traditional knowledge, and the role of human being in the protection of environment and biodiversity. The problem is that our understanding on ethics on environment and biosphere and the biodiversity, I think, if I'm not wrong, is still in the infancy. So, the coming environmental crisis is actually the failures of the economic activities that we are actually conducting. We actually too focus on the privilege, but lack focus on the obligations. So we do believe that the bioethics is actually could be act as the future bridge between science and humanity. So in any decision-making process, I think bioethics should be an integral part when we would like to make policies in the near futures. This is actually very important for us, the application of Article 17, hoping in the futures agenda at UNESCO, IBC, and also IGBC. This Article 17 could be the focus for discussion. Protection of the environment, biosphere, and biodiversity. This article should be a guide for better relationship between human being and the environment. But how to make it happening? So this article be the guideline, the guidance for better relationship between us, human being, and the environment. This article also, we should push hard to be the guide in choosing and applying science and technology for the betterment, while also protecting biodiversity and improving quality of the biosphere and also the environment. We, the community from bioethics, also has to monitor the recent advances in molecular biology, recombinant technology, synthetic biology, and prevent the adverse effect on humanities and also the environment. In regard to synthetic biology, I've been joining the CBD Substar meeting in Montreal last couple months. The synthetic biology is heavily discussed. With synthetic biology and advancement of computer sciences, mathematics, and everything. So the people now actually shifting from reading the gene using the sophisticated equipment like sequencer, new generation sequencer. Now we are having, well, we call it the much better sequencers like ion torrent sequencer, which can actually sequence genetic, in a very rapid way. But no, it is not anymore, concentrating on reading the gene. But now it's actually concentrating on writing the genes. Meaning that DNA can actually be synthesized if you already have the structured molecule. And then people know possible, the scientists or technology science, possible to actually make a DNA synthetically. And like Craig Venters in United States claim that actually they can actually produce living organism synthetically. So this one actually rapid issues. And growing very fast. Some synthetic biology product is already approved by FDA. Some still in New Horizon. One that I know is like steviocytes, from stevia leaf, the sweeteners, which is actually produced by the farmers in Paraguay. In 1 or 2 years to come, because I think it's already approved by FDA, So the big companies, no need actually the extract from the leaves of stevia from Paraguay farmers, but rather they actually use the synthetic steviocyte, which actually produced in laboratorium and not actually interfere with the global climate change. But how about the farmers, the poor farmers who produce the stevia leaf, But this one, not only stevia, there's vanilla, cocoa beans, and many other, even the coconut, flavors. It's not actually depend on the coconut waters, but can actually mean synthetically. This actually will be shifted, the paradigm. So I think there should be a lot of ethical issues, come in from this new rapidly developed technique. We call it the writing the gene and editing the gene. But editing the gene is not only from plant, for animal, but actually also now occurring in the human being. They can actually do the editing of the gene. So direct science and technology application not only for the competition and for survival of the fittest, but for the survival of the global living system also as well. So, meaning that the bioethic consideration is to play an important role. The Article 17 also should provide not only direction in the development of science technology, but also guide how to improve the awareness. This is actually very lacking, especially in many developing countries. Even in the developed countries, actually, the awareness for the importance of bioethics, to guide the environmental cost of our endeavor in science technology can have far-reaching impact, or our ecosystem and humanities, and should pose no risk of irreversible damage. Something like the loss of biodiversity or biodiversity extinction, it will be very difficult for us. It's rather irreversible for this one. So I think before policies can be implemented and appropriate action decided, dialogue and discourse must take place. So that's actually the bioethic would play important role. So we are not misleading to the direction that we cannot protect the Earth planet, we cannot protect the environment, the biosphere, and protect human being and generation to come. The foundation of this course is in the philosophical and ethical that establish the universal understanding. So this is not, will be very difficult because universally should be understand the ethical implication of biodiversity, biosphere, and the environment. Responding to the rapid rate species disappearance, degradation of biosphere and the environment, and decrease of the carrying capacity of the Earth planet, and ethical consensus is urgently needed. I think I just would like to leave that one, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for Professor Endang Sukara for the keynote speech, and we would like to invite Professor Endang Sukara to stand up for a moment, as there will be a souvenir presented by Professor Miyako Takagi.